Okay, so today we're going to be sketching modulus functions. We're going to sketch y equals the modulus of the entire function and y equals the function of the modulus of x. So make your notes, heading, and we press on. So as we said, we're going to be sketching the graphs of y equals the modulus of the function of x and y equals the function of the modulus of x. So in the first instance, we're going to sketch y equals the modulus of the function. 3 steps, which you've got to remember. First, you've got to sketch the original graph, y equals f of x. Next, you reflect any parts of the function that are below the x-axis. Okay, so wherever the function is below the x-axis, we reflect it, and then we remove the parts below the x-axis. So let's have a look at an example. Okay, so we're going to sketch this graph. F of x equals x squared minus 3x minus 10, and then we're going to sketch its reflection. So in order to sketch this, what must I do in the first instance? F of x is equal to x squared minus 3x minus 10. So I need to, factorize it. It's x squared, it's quite simple. I've got my minus 10 though. What factors of minus 10 are going to give me 3? 2 times 5 gives me 10. One of them's got to be negative. So plus 2 minus 5. Good. Now then I need some coordinates then. So how about when f of x is equal to 0? That means that, well, let's just write it in full. That implies then that x plus 2 times x minus 5 is going to be equal to 0, which means that either capital E, either x plus 2 equals 0 or x minus 5 equals 0, which means that either x equals minus 2 or x equals 5. So that gives us coordinates at minus 2, 0 and 5, 0. What about if x equals 0? Well, that means then that f of x or y is going to be equal to 0 plus 2, so that's going to be 2 times 0 minus 5 times minus 5. So that gives us minus 10. So we've got a third coordinate at 10, minus 10. At minus 10, 0. Wrong way around. Let's rub that out. 0 minus 10. And blue. There we go. So 0 minus 10. Marvelous. So we've got 3 coordinates. We can sketch our curve then. Okay. So if you want to make some notes, I do so now. You need these notes here on sketching the modulus of the function. When you're ready to move on, hit play again. Right, so that's our 3 coordinates, minus 2, 0, 5, 0, and 0, minus 10. So we can now sketch the curve. There's my minus 2, 5, and minus 10. And there it is. So it's a happy quadratic passing through those 3 points. So that's our first part 1. Now we're going to reflect the parts of it where the function is less than 0. Okay, so anything less than 0 here, anything below the x-axis, it's going to be reflected. So that curve there is going to look, it's going to be reflected as such. So let's have a look. So we reflect the curve below the x-axis, looks like that. And finally, I remove the parts below the x-axis. And that's my modulus of the function. If you want to make a sketch, hit pause. When you're ready, we'll look at another example. Remember, because it's the modulus of the entire function, any parts of y that become negative, because it's negative y, are now positive. So this time we're going to take the same function, f of x equals x squared minus 3x minus 10. Sketch it first and then reflect the function of the modulus of x. Now, there's our function there, and same function, so it's going to cross the axes at the same points as it did before. We had 5, 0, minus 2, 0, and 0, minus 10. So those are 3 points where it crosses the axes, and we sketched it before and it's exactly the same. But this time we're going to reflect this in the y-axis. So in the y-axis here, everything greater than x, greater than 0, is going to be reflected in the y-axis. So let's have a look at that then. So we only go up to the y-axis and then we reflect that in the y-axis. There you go. And that's your function of the modulus of x. So hit pause, make a sketch of that, and we'll look at another example. Make sure you've taken down these notes, they're important. Also worth noting, whenever we reflect, whenever we draw the function, the modulus of x means that wherever we've got a negative x, it's going to give us the same value as positive. So wherever we've got a negative value of x, it's going to generate the same value as a positive value of x would. This is the modulus of x. Right. This time we're given g of x equals sine x, so it's a sine curve between minus 360 and 360. Sketch the function first, part A, then sketch the modulus of the function, and then part C, sketch the the function of the modulus of x. Okay, so we're quite happy with our sine curve. Yep. I hope we are. Good. Between 360 and minus 360. Now we're going to sketch the modulus of the function of g of x, okay, which means that anything below the x-axis is going to be reflected. So anything below the x-axis is going to be reflected, and so these portions here are going to be reflected because the function, the whole function, is always positive, like so, and then we remove those bits there. So that's your y equals the modulus of g of x. So the function is always positive, can't go below 0. And finally, we're going to sketch the function of the modulus of x. So we've sketched anything that's greater than 0 for x, and we reflect it in the y-axis, like so. 3 sketches for you. Hit pause when you're ready to have a look at the next example. Hit play again. Okay, our final example then. It's a bit of a complicated curve. It's got 5 points labeled on it, A, B, C, D, and E. What it wants you to do is sketch 2 graphs, labeling the points, the corresponding points to A, B, C, D, and E, as well as any that intersect with the axes. So in the first one, A, it wants you to sketch the modulus of the function. So if we sketch the function first, Most of the function means that it can never be negative. So any parts of it that's negative here, it's got to be reflected in the x-axis and be reflected in the x-axis like so, and then we remove the bits below. We've got to remember that's the reflection there, so that's going to be E dash there. Okay. And it's 6 minus 5, so across 6, down 5, so the reflection is going to be across 6, up 5. Good, that's your y equals modulus of the function. So if you want to make a sketch, and for part B, y equals the function of the modulus of x. So we sketch the curve up to the y-axis, and then we reflect the curve in the y-axis. So anything less than 0 for the values of x. So if we sketch it, it's going to drop down and give us that curve here. We'll need to mark the points for D and E on the reflection. So that's going to be D dash. It's 3 across there, so it's going to be minus 3 across there. And E is 6 across, down 5, so it's going to be minus 6 and minus 5. And there we have our y equals the function of the modulus. So if you want to sketch that, and when you're ready you can attempt some questions for me. And you're going to attempt exercise 2E for me on page 42 in the book. So 2E, and carries on down the page there. Good luck.